Next Curve.
Hey everyone, welcome to Next Curve's reThink webcast and our Analyst Corner. And as you probably well know, I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. And this is just yet another episode of From the Radio to the RIC with my co-host, Earl Lum of EJL Wireless Research. Hey, what's up?
Thanks for having me, Leonard. I think this is number 3 in today's binge recording.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to survive the third one. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about Mavenir's Analyst Day, right? Is that what they call it? Or is it a summit, conference?
Analyst Day, I believe, is what they call it.
Yeah, so I had a conflict this year, so I wasn't able to make it. Then they also didn't invite me, so hey, I do feel bad, Mavenir folks. I didn't get the invite, but that's okay. I mean, I would have had to say no. But you made it.
I did.
So they must love you, and I'm sure that you have something to say and that you have some takes that you would love to share with our audience.
Yeah,
including myself.
I think it was a very good event that they hosted this year, much closer to where their headquarters were instead of downtown last year in that artsy hotel, I believe.
Oh, I love that.
The event
was fantastic.
No cowboy hats this year, but that's okay.
Okay.
But I think the event was a game changer from my perspective, because a year ago when I was at the last event, I came away with a fairly negative outlook on the company because of things that were mentioned and the focus of where they were on the radio side. And it just didn't seem like there was a lot of the strategy just seemed like it was everywhere. And it wasn't a very laser focused situation with the company.
Yeah.
So,
and the big talking point that last year was that they're kind of pivoting toward being more of a services or a SI type of company, right?
Right. And they were trying to get their entire radio portfolio up and going, and that was going to require a ton of money that they were going to need to develop all of these radios that they were hoping that they would ship with their software, right, as an integrated end-to-end solution for Open RAN. But the whole point of that is that obviously you want to be able to mix and match whatever. And I think that the issue was no one doubts their software. At least I'd never doubted their software and their core network software, the packet core, and everything else that they do that's cloud native, because that's what they're good at. That's their heritage.
Yeah.
On the radio side was where I had a substantial amount of concerns coming out of last year's event. Now, fast forward to this year, the real question was what was going to be the focus this year for Open RAN and where the company was going to be. Was it going to be the same strategy, or were they going to yet again pivot to a different strategy given the ever-changing environment in India, which is one of the biggest markets that they're trying to go after? In addition to, stuff at Dish Wireless here in the United States. So I was very eager to understand what they were going to be doing, what the update was. And the special guest this year from Dish was Mark Ruan, who's ex-Nokia, and he was able to talk about what is really going on with Dish, because there's been a lot of speculations regarding Dish and the whole Samsung deal that Dish had and all of that. So if I look at the big picture takeaways from the event, number one, the whole reason for Mavenir wanting to develop radios in the first place is similar to what I would say happened at Qualcomm in the early days of CDMA, where they had to make a phone, they had to make a base station, they had to seed the market with the technology because it just wasn't available at that time. And so when all of this started, there were no 7.2 massive MIMO radios that Mavenir could leverage, and that forced them to build their own 32T and 64T versions of it. Now, going forward, do they want to make radios? They can, but they are also willing to license it to anyone because it was just to prove out their CU and DU software, right?
Sure.
So now that all of that's been proven, they can make radios. Do they want to be a radio supplier for forever? I doubt it, because that's not their core expertise, but they certainly can continue to make it. Now, one of the highlights of the event was looking at their next generation radio, which is based on Qualcomm chips for the digital front end. And that radio, which is a 32T, 32R, was an amazing product. And I usually never say that about anyone's product. So for me to actually say that means something.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen enough. And
oh, yeah.
It was, it weighed about 13 kilos and it had no fan unit.
Oh,
on it. So I'm going to show something, because it's show and tell for all the boys and girls out there, in that this is a Nokia radio. And there are, as you can see, 3 big fans on the back of this chassis that's shipping. So kudos to Mavenir for developing a radio with no fans. Now, more importantly, on the dish situation at Samsung, Mavenir was able to, and with Mark Ruan from Dish, clear the air in terms of all of the unknown data points that were happening in real time with Samsung in how they got the deal. So in a nutshell, the Samsung deal with Dish was for half of the network. It wasn't for the entire network. And it was for the half that Altiostar screwed up on, which is Rakuten Symphony. So when Rakuten Symphony got booted out, Samsung was brought in, but I think Dish did a horrible job of explaining the fact that the Mavenir side of the network wasn't the problem, and it continues to function. And they've actually deployed their CUDU in about half of the network, which is over 10,000 sites. The issue was the Altiostar stuff that didn't work, that Samsung was brought in to fix, and only that portion of the network. So it's a 2-vendor solution over at Dish. Half of which is Mavenir, the other half is Samsung, and then the Mavenir side with the Fujitsu radio. So none of that was public prior to this event this year at Mavenir, and the air was cleared from Mark and my discussions with John Baker and others. So I think that really changed my perspective of the fact that, their software works, right?
Sure.
There's not a problem with it. The radio is getting better, but if they want to sell it in India, everyone's still going to lose money in India regardless, right? Because no one makes money in India. But again, they have a good product. They have a good product now that's light. It meets what I think would be coming from a tier 1 supplier. It looks and feels like a tier 1 radio. So kudos to them for getting that 32T design out on their second generation product, and for eliminating a substantial amount of weight from that radio. So if we look forward to, on the accelerator cards in terms of who they're partnering with on the chips, they listed a whole bunch of different silicon partnerships that they're doing right now. And at this point, I think they're working with everyone. And at some point in the future, all of it will be out, including the NVIDIA chips that they're working with. So they'll have their software ported to virtually anyone's hardware, that whichever operator wants whatever hardware configuration, they'll be able to get their CU and DU software onto that server.
And in my chat with John, especially related to the NVIDIA vRAN offering, he reminded me of the important role that Mavenir had there, and working with NVIDIA to make their software work. So, but it's like what we've said on our show for a long time. The software part is not as much of the problem. Probably easy, do I really want to say easy? It's not it has not proven to be as difficult as the hardware, right?
Exactly.
But more importantly, it's the system. And my impression is that I think the folks at Mavenir still need to study our previous materials that we've written about and talked about regarding Open RAN, because I think there's still things that I'm hearing from you that are what I consider gaps in strategy and effective go-to-market. But it's great to hear that they have some really solid technical wins, right? And that they're proving the viability. I just question whether or not they can scale with the complex strategy that they continue to execute on, right? It's just tends to be different flavors year over year, is my impression.
I think they're going to be probably doing a lot more in 2024 than they have previously. I think a lot of it was supply chain on the hardware side, on the radios, et cetera. And if we look at where they're positioned on the software side with the Open RAN community, sure, there is this other trend of single vendor Open RAN that's going on right now. But I think in the areas where they have one, I think they're executing on that and delivering. It's just that we're going to have this weird model of a bunch of guys going single vendor Open RAN and a bunch of guys who really want to start from a green field and just say, yes, we're going to go with Mavenir, and either Mavenir as the software provider on whatever servers, or Mavenir as an end-to-end solution with the radios, or probably less likely would be Mavenir just supplying the radios with none of the software.
Interesting. All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks for sharing your perspective, and hopefully we'll have a chance to attend together next year. On your behalf, I will thank Mavenir for inviting you to the event. Hey, so to our audience, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to follow Earl Lum at www.ejlwireless.com for anything wireless, because he is the man. And please subscribe to the Next Curve YouTube channel. And the easiest thing to do is to subscribe to the Next Curve Research Portal and Media Center at www.next-curve.com. Go there on a regular basis for the tech and industry insights that matter. And until next time, keep it real, and we will see you. Thanks a lot, Earl.
Thanks a lot for having me, Leonard.